Hey guys, what's going on? Jax here. Another video today. I'm going to be talking about North American Challenger team, Team Coast. Now, if you watch my power rankings video, my top 5 in North America, I recently rated them as number 1. That being said, they're coming off of a number 3 finish in the Challenger Series just like a week or two ago. But I still thought that they were a top contender, and I honestly think that they would have done completely fine going into the promotion tournament. That I feel like they'd make a good run. Now, Team Coast doesn't seem to feel that way, as they have removed 2 of their starters from their roster. And when I say removed, I guess they just removed them from the starting position. They're technically benched. They are sitting as substitutes now, and their replacements have not yet been announced. So we don't know who's taking over in those positions, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Right now, I just want to talk about the 2 people that are getting replaced in particular. We've got Rhux in the top lane and Goldenglue in the mid lane. From the sounds of it, these 2 were removed based on performance alone. There didn't seem to be a lot of internal conflict, but I mean, who am I to know what kind of internal conflict is going on with the team? From the actual Team Coast announcement, which I will link in the description below, it just seems like this is something they want to do to up the overall mechanical skill level of the team. And they did not feel as if their 2 solo laners were really up to LCS caliber, which that's debatable. So starting with Goldenglue in the mid lane, I said personally in my power rankings video that he is a proficient mid laner as challenger standards go, and he's good as challenger standards go. And obviously, if you want to get into the LCS, you have to be better than that. You have to be really good or great by challenger standards. But Goldenglue did not really live up to that. He played a really good Yasuo, really good Orianna, and he played well against teams that were at an overall step below Team Coast. But when it comes to mid laners like Laud and Slushy and Keen, Goldenglue, he doesn't stand out, not really at all. So I can kind of see where they're coming from with Goldenglue if they're looking at mechanical skill alone. That being said, I don't know about shot calling. I'm pretty sure that Santorin is a main shot caller for the team. Don't know how much Goldenglue actually had to do with that shot calling, but if he played a part, then that's going to be a hit. You take away the mechanics, and you might replace him with better mechanics, but you can't just build an instant synergy. But we'll talk about that later. We still have to talk about Rhux in the top lane. It's kind of the same deal with him. The thing is, Rhux can go off. Rhux can, play the role that you need him to play. He's a solid player. What I did criticize him for is when he will get behind a little bit in a lane, he is very prone to tilt, and he turns into a ghost in the middle of the game. He just does not have the teleport impact. He cannot claw his way back from a deficit in lane. He definitely is not a fighter. If he starts going down, he goes down hard. And, that can definitely be a hindrance for Coast, especially if you're in a best of 3 series, best of 5 series, where his morale might be down in game 1, and, that's going to translate into game 2. And, top lane might not have a huge impact on shot calling or anything, but what happens when there's a crucial dragon fight going down? He's down on himself from game 1, and he questions his teleport. He's walking back and forth 5 seconds. He hasn't teleported yet. That's a window that needs to be hit that can completely make or break a team fight. And I know it sounds like maybe I'm reaching a little bit here, but morale and confidence are a huge thing. You saw it with Nien in the LCS last split. The guy got down on himself, and when some people get down on themselves, their impact in the game completely goes away. So, in terms of mechanical skill alone, if they want to bring in new players, I can't really fault them. Now, in terms of the team overall, there is plenty of fault because regardless of my criticisms, sorry, regardless of anybody else's criticisms, what has Team Coast done? In their newest iteration, they have dominated the Challenger Series for months and earned a spot into the promotion relegation tournament. And you guys don't think that this team as a whole merits the ability to play in that promotion tournament? Like, you seriously think that they need that taken away from them? You think that you need to intervene here? And like I said, I'm not inside of the Team Coast organization, so if it's anything internal conflict wise, I'm not too sure. But it just really seems like it's incredibly performance based. And why I say that is because they are bringing over 2 Korean challenger players. They have not made the names known. We don't know who's actually filling in these spots, but they are 2 Korean challenger players. And apparently they have a really good challenger team over in Korea. Don't know why they need to come over and play in North America then, but, you know, whatever. If you want to read a little bit more about it, it's in the description, the Team Coast announcement. But they're 2 Korean players. So the next thing we need to talk about with these 2 Korean players is what the communication is going to be like. Now, from what I understand, Santorin is a major shot caller for Team Coast. Not very surprising. Junglers often call a lot of shots. I would not be surprised to see Sheep calling some shots from the bottom lane as well. Now, with this mid laner and top laner, even if they're not directly shot calling themselves, that communication is going to take a major hit. Not only is there a communication barrier, but there's also a very short amount of time for this team to practice together and for these shot callers and solo laners to then gain synergy. The promotion tournament is September 9th through the 11th, and it's August 30th now. Seriously, less than 2 weeks, and you are going to replace 2 key players in your team with non-English speakers. And I mean, they might speak some English, of course, but secondary English language speakers. That just seems ludicrous. From the mid lane, it's super decisive play. Even if you're not a main shot caller, you have things that you need to call. You need to call jungle invades. You need to call jungler presence. You need to be ready to roam down to dragon. Like, there are things that need to be done in communication that needs to happen. Also, the mid lane is largely a 2v2 game. It's not just that 1v1. You got your junglers mid all of the time, and it's very important to be able to communicate effectively and make that 2v2 stronger than the enemy team's 2v2. And I mean, less than 2 weeks of practice time and a language barrier, you kind of, I mean, I'm drilling it into you at this point. Language barrier, lack of practice time. But this is what we're looking at here. This is the real situation. And it's the same thing with top lane. Top lane is not an island anymore. You can be super mechanically skilled, but you need to know you need to be able to communicate your teleport effectively. You need to be able to communicate the enemy team's teleport effectively. You need to be able to communicate split pushes effectively, jungle presence, the same kind of things with mid lane. Communication is key. Synergy is key. Especially when your jungler will often play the role of a front line along with your jungler. Or I might have said jungler twice. When your top lane and your jungler are playing the front line, you guys need to communicate cooldowns. You need to communicate all kinds of things. And any kind of solo mechanical skill from Korea is not going to automatically trump communication and synergy. And the last thing I want to talk about without rambling on too long is what we can compare this to. And we have 3 key players to compare it to. There's Seraph from CLG, there is Helios from Evil Geniuses, and there is Lustboy from TSM. And Lustboy, to his credit, he's been doing a really good job so far, and he's in the support role. So, you know, it's a lot different. Also with a primary shot caller like Bjergsen, And with amazing picking up some shot calling in the jungle, Lustboy really only needs to be communicating small key things. So I'm sure that his vocal communication is going to be a lot less than what's going to be expected of Team Coast's new top laner and their new mid laner. But looking at Seraph, for example, in the top lane, we've seen how that turned out. Now, the guy brought over from Korea, oh, this guy's so mechanically good. And I'm not trying to bash Seraph here, but realistically, the communication was a factor. You saw failed dives at the beginning of the season. You saw wonky teleports at the beginning of the season. You saw very mistimed engages. Like, the communication is a factor. And top lane, when you're doing so many key things for your team, you need to be able to communicate effectively. It doesn't matter how mechanically skilled you are. You need to be able to communicate effectively. Particularly with the meta that we're in right now, you've got your Alistar top lane, you've got your Maokai top lane. Actually, Alistar might not be a very relevant pick in the promotion tournament with the recent W nerfs. But, unless you're playing Nidalee, Jax, or Aurelia, where you're really going to mechanically outplay your opponent, that communication is going to trump your mechanical skill 9 times out of 10. And then with Helios, we saw positive reinforcement for Evil Geniuses, which means that even with English as a secondary language, there is still a window for, maybe this mid laner to come in and make solid shot calls. It's all just going to depend on this guy's experience, his experience as a leader, his experience as a shot caller and as a mid laner. But right now, I'm not betting on success for Team Coast. I think I've talked about just about all of the important parts of it, so I'm just going to finish off with a little bit of my opinion. It's just, this is such a desperate move, and it's a rash move, and it's completely unfair to Rhux and Goldenglue, who, despite their criticisms, have taken Team Coast all the way. They've been apart since the beginning. They've earned their spot just like the rest, and to be benched such short notice while staring a career in the face is just wrong, and I don't expect good things from Team Coast. I don't know how or why they would do that to 2 of their players, but it's a rash move. I don't think it's going to pay off in the slightest. We'll see. All I can say is that if that power rankings came out today instead of a couple days ago, there's no way Team Coast would be sitting in number 1. That's all I really have to say for today, guys. Hopefully we see more develop of this Team Coast situation. Whenever roster changes or anything like that happen, I'll be making a video with my opinion. Definitely let me know what you think too. I'd love to hear what some of you guys that also follow the Challenger Series would think about the situation. And if you don't follow, definitely feel free to hit me up with any other questions that you might have. I'll answer them in the comments, I'll answer them on Twitter, I'll answer them in a video. This is all about, learning about the Challenger Series, exposing the Challenger Series, and bringing my knowledge to the rest of the world. So, thanks, guys. If you like the video, hit the subscribe button, like it, share it, post it on Reddit, Twitter, whatever you want to do, and I'll see you guys later.